This is Dust War Journals, episode 31, your number one stop for news and discussion related to Dust 1947. My name is Johannes, and with me today, as usual, are my lovely co-hosts.
Oh, you're talking about us. How nice. This is Lutta, of course.
Yeah, I was also just thinking of, I don't know, what's talking about now?
No, well, but who are you?
I'm Magnus.
Oh!
As usual.
As always. And
unfortunately,
everyone is here.
Welcome. We could start with, like we usually do, we like to talk a little bit about our hobby progress and our private lives in a certain bit.
No, it's just you like to talk about your private life, Johannes. We are just forced by the contract we've signed with you. You know, that's about it.
If I'm just going to talk about that, I'm just going to talk about my bowel movements because I've been sick for most of the time since last. So I'm not going to talk about that. So as you can probably guess by that, I have not had much stuff done. So I'm a bit stressed out, I have to admit, because of Nordic coming up, and I still have some stuff to prepare for that. So there's just stuff hanging over me, like the sort of what is it? Sort of Babylon now.
And that is contrary to before, in the week before, there something was hanging out of you or something.
Yeah, exactly. So the less said about that, the better, okay. I think. Moving on.
Okay. Magnus, how's your bowel movements? Please share with us.
It's fine. Yeah, I'm happy with it. Right. I have been continuing to tinker with the terrain stuff, basically, and
we've seen a bit of the results here. We're in Magnus's hobby room at the moment, and we've been playing with some of his toys.
Yeah, we've seen some glowing examples, one could say, just to
literally.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the building I was talking about last time, or even maybe the episode before, it's not quite finished yet. I still have some work to do, but it's coming together, pretty nicely. But I couldn't really help myself, so I started a few small stuff that is going to kind of be used on the new table that I'm planning. So yeah, that's part of what you have seen here today. Also, the small, some scatter terrain, basically, some cool stuff. Just small head start for. Yeah,
and it's you really have to put up some images of this stuff when you're finished with it, because I think it's a marvelous example of how simple, easy stuff can have a very big impact on the overall feel and look of a entire game table, I think. So
yeah, and that's kind of my philosophy also when I build terrain. Sometimes I do kind of go a little bit overboard, with a bunch of details and stuff, but many of them are fairly simple to do. Either you can buy some kind of resin details or something that, there are loads of cool stuff, but of course they will cost you some money. But you can also do a lot of more or less free stuff. You can just, print some posters. A lot of people do that. You can put some small like wires or pipes or just a few more details here and there, and it will really make the terrain pop a lot more.
Yeah, and we've seen some excellent posters on the Facebook, and as usual, I never remember the name of the guy, but whoever you were that were printing all those beautiful posters, we saw them, we liked them, we think you're great, and we will of course give you the proper props in due time. Sorry, but that's a very important thing. Never overdo your terrain, but make sure you have some little thing. And you have a lot of nice buys from TT Combat that you're adding just a little bit on these models.
Yeah, I got a bunch because I got a good deal, basically. Mm-hmm. So I ordered a bunch of stuff. Some of this I will definitely use I've already planned what to do with it on the new table. Some other stuff I didn't really decide, but I thought, well, this is probably something I want to have sometime in the future because it's, it looks cool. Some cool details to add quickly here and there.
Yeah, one loves those bit boxes when one just picks up and you forget sometimes that you hoarded this and that plastic gadget or whatever it is, and then you just see, oh, how nice. Or if you find a certain head that you didn't remember it was in the head compartment, so to speak, you pick that up and you say, oh, this guy is just beautiful with his head. And so that's a recommendation for everyone. Just have a little bit at least of a hoarder box that you collect.
And you do seem to be the kind of master of that, Luda. You find stuff and you just, the first thing you think is, oh, what can I build out of this?
Well, yeah, unfortunately, there's some strange sickness, all cardboard boxes or something. It goes back, way back, actually. I think it's, perhaps I just have to, make amends on what happened when I was younger, because I built all those in an enormous Hoth terrain piece out of milk
Cartons.
Cartons, thank you.
You're talking about Hoth, like Star Wars?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So like the snow towers and the walls and stuff like that, and some well, we can call him at least a friend, was over, played with it, but afterward it got a lot of rumbles in school because everyone was finding out that I was playing with the milk carpet, and then there was just the atmosphere wasn't so good. So perhaps I'm just, from that on, I have to...
You became the milkman.
Yeah, for some reason. So I have to, this is to make amends for that or something, and just prove people wrong that you can actually...
The milkman cometh.
Yeah, something like that.
No, but you have a really good point there, that you can do so many things with really simple stuff that most people like already have in their homes, or they can easily get hold of. It doesn't really have to be that complicated. You can just use a pair of scissors, a knife, some glue and other stuff, and you can really you can make some cool stuff if you have the imagination. It doesn't have to be very complicated.
Yeah, and it's easier to actually go and make your foundation for the building perhaps out of the cornflakes box, and then you can add layers on it, and you can use, for instance, lollipops or ice cream sticks and stuff like that, and then you glue them on, and all of a sudden it gets very stable, and you can have a good view of something on the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. So let's go over talk about some news.
Well, we haven't talked about my bowel movements. I have said nothing about it. I'm sure that the listeners are anticipating something. No.
Well, of course, if you have something interesting to come with.
You want to come
at
out?
the moment, actually. Today, I'm totally flat on that part. And, yes, we don't have to talk about my hobby time either, because it's not been too interesting. I've been up at a tournament, played some pre-Nordic at Tranås here in Sweden. It was a lovely little tournament the guys arranged there, and I was very happy to play in that. And just is a warning out there for everyone. If you haven't faced Roger and his ninjas yet, sit down when you do it, because they are in a mass and they totally takes you by storm. So
he's not Laser Roger anymore. He's now Ninja Roger.
Yeah, there's ninjas, and they're everywhere, but you can't see them because they're all hiding. So it's it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
Yeah, I've only heard about that army, and it does seem to be very difficult to kind of wrap your head around how to play against.
Yeah, I can't see how he can't be on the top 5 places with that army at Nordic, because, you have to play extremely good and have, I think, a lot of luck to master it, or if Roger's just being friendly and just playing casual, then perhaps, but it's such a wave of them. It doesn't matter if he misses a few die rolls or something, because he can waste so many ninjas before, you're gonna watch him in Nordic and you're gonna see what I'm talking about.
All right. Well, we'll get back to that point then.
No, please do.
All right, so now let's go over and talk some news. There's been a few cool releases since last episode. First off, 2 new releases for the Steel Guard, if you are a premium collector, especially in the Sverograd pattern. So we have the Steel Guard Anti-Tank Squad and the Steel Guard Tesla Squad, both released in the Sverograd premium pattern. So very, very nice that the studio keeps supporting these older premium patterns for collectors and gamers, of course.
Yeah, that's nice.
And 2 very likable units. They are very fun to play with, both of them. So
Definitely.
Highly recommend them.
And also we have the Cultist Raiders figurines set. So if you wanted to build your own Cultist Raiders car with those lovely little passengers inside, this is your chance. There's been some talk, I know about on Facebook and other places that $20 seems a little bit much for just a single little bit of resin, which is basically what this is. But of course, there's not necessary if you want it. This is for bling, basically.
Oh, yeah.
But you do get, as with most of these conversion sets, you do get the unit card for the Cultist Raider unit as well.
I mean,
so.
it's the same as for all the conversion sets, that they are for the hobbyist who really wants everything to be exactly right, or exactly have the exact right parts, which also means that they probably make this in not that many numbers, meaning each set is going to be more expensive than compared to the. I mean, a regular unit will be sold in, I don't know how many, but a lot more than this set. So
yeah, and that's the big contributing factor there.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
but for those of you who do want to build this, this is now available, which is really, really lovely. And I just love the fact that they've just managed to mash together. And here you can see on these units how they've done it. You don't really see that with the premium version, where everyone's still in the car. And here you can see exactly how they are positioned and just how much detail actually are on these figures.
Yeah, and if your wallet is filled with money, you can always buy it just for the car and have it just as a train feature now. Because you don't have to add the figurines if you don't want to.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And finally, we had the big release, the Wave 12 release, or the spring release, however you want to see it. So this is a big bunch of stuff. Just to go through the entire list quickly, we have the Desert Scorpions HQ box, we have the Endak HQ box, and we also got Panzer Meister specifically outside of the HQ box, so he's available by himself if you only want that figure. We got the Avatar of Cthulhu in Prime Premium and Model Kits. It was only available as the limited edition resin model kit before. We got the Wrecker, Demolisher, and Obliterator walkers for the Mercenaries. We got the Ryu number 2 and 3 model walkers for the IJN. We got the Alexei and Nadia for the SSU, and we also got the Middle Eastern House number 2, which we kind of raved about a few episodes back. So let's just dive into this list. There's a lot of really cool stuff here all over the board, I feel. The Desert Scorpions HQ, we've talked about all the units in this box back when we did our Hellgate special. So besides the obligatory Command Squad, we also have 3 heroes. We got Bullseye, we got Marek, and we got, let's see, Gregonissi. So this is a really cool way to get a hold of, especially, of course, Marek, which is a new hero that hasn't been available before, and also Bullseye, which was only available for a very short time previously.
Yeah, he was
English Championship or the European Championship in England a few years back.
Yeah, but he was also available to buy on the Dust game site for a short period. But now he's available for everyone again, which is a good thing because this is a cool character.
Oh yeah, and this is really a box I'm gonna get, even if I already have Gregonissi. I'm gonna buy this one sooner or later.
Yeah, the same here. The annoying thing for me is that it seems like with the Desert Scorpion so far, I've been collecting the premium heroes. So this is a bit annoying because I have the only hero that I don't have from this box is Marek. So I would have to buy the entire box just to get Marek as a premium figure if I want to go that route. So I haven't really decided how I'm going to do that. But just especially, I think Reganissi is an amazing miniature.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think all of these are super cool, and I just want to say that for anyone out there who hasn't really checked out the Hellgate book, you should, because both Reganissi and Marek have really cool platoons.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and Reganissi is, but I feel that is such a versatile model. Many people just want to put him in the biggest tank they got, or biggest walker tank.
Of course.
Yeah, well, I can see that, but it's so imaginary, not imaginary. You can do so much more with him because he has so many potential, and that's why I love him so much, because you can. I also want to test him out someday in a really infantry way. I mean, put him in a squad and see what he can do, because I feel with the right squad he can do a lot with those bites and everything. So
it seems that grapple especially is that's a skill that's underutilized by players.
Yes, sir. So true.
Moving on to the NDAC HQ box. This is very similar. We got the obligatory desert part here for the Axis. This is the command squad and 3 heroes. In this case, it's Tina and Hyena, and it's the Desert Fox. And finally, we've got the new hero, the Panzer Meister. And as I said, this is also available separately if you only want this guy, since all the other models has been available separately for a very long time.
but you see, as far as I saw on the website, the box with only Panzermeister is premium, right? Or is it?
I think there's available there is a premium version that could be true, that the Panzermeister is only available separately as premium. That could be
at
correct.
least for now.
And another thing that's cool with that box, and I think the same is true in the HQ box, is that you get 3 different heads for him. Mm-hmm. So you can select kind of what kind of style you want him to appear as. And just to talk about this guy, because personally I love this hero. I believe that this is going to be a staple hero in the Andak armies going forward. 6 points for the Panzermeister. He is a soldier 1, as with most of the Andak at least. Move 2, march move 4, and only 3 hit points. So he's not physically that strong, but he makes up for it with his skills. So first off, he has the pilot skill. Of course, he can pilot any vehicle, any ground vehicle that is. He has the fanatical skill, which means that he is immune to suppression. He has defensive tactics, which means he gains damage resilience when he's in cover, and that applies both when he's on foot and when he's piloting a vehicle. And finally, he has the big thing that makes this guy really, really cool and versatile, in my opinion. And stay down. Any unit hit by ranged weapons fired by this unit automatically gains a suppression token. So imagine putting this guy in something with like 4 or 5 weapon lines. I'm thinking like a Panzer IV or a captured Skysweeper or something. He will just be spitting out suppression tokens everywhere.
Yeah, and I think that's very great, because he's very different from Panzer Prince.
Yeah.
The only similarity is the 3 wounds, because they both have 3 wounds.
Yeah.
So, and also, when you are such a super pilot, I think when you finally are removed from your walker, you should be easy to kill, even though he is not, because he has damage resilience and can hide away in the bushes or something like that. But I really think this is a good hero, a very fun hero. Well, the only reason I won't play him is because I don't play Endak, so
Yeah.
I don't have to.
But, yeah, like I said, you will play this guy completely differently than you play with Panzer Meister. Panzer Meister, you want to put in a big heavy tank and have him going like sniping other vehicles from afar. This guy, you want to be in the thick of it. You want him charging the front lines and just all guns blazing, and it's a completely different style, and I love that.
Yeah, and everyone realized you mean Panzer Prince and this now Panzer Meister.
Panzer Meister, yeah.
Yes, because they are very similar in name, so if any new beginning players might just not...
Well, in my
go.
view, I have to say this, but his most important skill is the pilot skill, first
Yes,
of all.
of course. Yes, of course.
Because the Axis don't have too many pilots, so this is a really nice addition. And I see them... I mean, you could play both the new guy, Panzer Meister, and the old Panzer Prince. You could play them both offensively or both defensively, or you can even pair them if you have them both in the same army list.
Of course.
I mean, you can kind of tag team. One of them could like stay behind a little bit and try to like covering fire.
You send in Panzer Meister first to soften up and suppress the enemy, and then you send in the Panzer Prince.
Enhance.
Yeah, and you just pick out the sitting ducks that's left behind, basically.
Yeah, so I mean, you can do a lot of cool things with this guy, and I think, especially if you combine him with Panzer Prince.
Yeah, just the fact that you can use like heavy machine guns and fire them at like KV-47s, even if you just you don't even do any damage, but the fact that you can put suppression tokens on vehicles just by hitting them, it's so powerful. I'm seeing a lot of opportunities with this guy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I just like to point out to everyone I will be facing in the Nordic that I am a little bit bullshitting when I'm saying I don't play Endak, because you're going to see Tina and Hyena in my army at Nordic, but that's just because she's the only...
You have a theme.
Yeah, I have a theme, so thank you.
So let's go over to the Avatar of Cthulhu. We've really discussed this guy back when we talked about the Hellgate book, but it's glad...
We're disgusting with this guy, yes.
Yeah, it's good to see that this guy is finally available in all the forms that we've accustomed to. So this is something that's going to start wrecking people's shit, basically.
Yeah,
very soon.
And every listener, I've been trying to pay off Johannes to tell me if any one of the two Cthulhu players coming to Nordic has this shit already and brings it to the tournament, because I really want to know if anyone's out there bringing it. But hopefully no one has had the money to spend on this one so far. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I would say I'm willing to bet that at least one of them will have this.
Yeah, well, we have one that is coming that has the money for it, but he seems to have been putting a lot of money on other games also in the last couple of weeks that passed, so I'm hoping he won't be bringing it, but I'm stacking Panzerfaust and other explosive devices on a stack, so if I have to see them, there's going to be a lot of big bada booms. I promise you that.
Right. Next up, we got the Record Demolisher Obliterator kit. If you go with the primed or premium or primed or model kit routes, that is for the mercenaries. So really nice to see that you get the opportunity to buy these in primed, and also with the kits with all three weapon versions in one box. It's just great.
It's wonderful, and I'm just jumping in there once again, because that is actually one of the ways I'm hoping to deal with the Avatar of Cthulhu, because there will be at least one obliterator in my Nordic list. I'm telling too much now perhaps, but those big bada booms, they will be coming.
It's a good unit, definitely. Next up, we got the Ryu 2 and 3 for the IJN, and of course you also can build the Ryu 1 with this kit, so it's basically a 3-in-1 here. And this is another one that's people have been waiting for, just in order to get it's basically the Wotan, and of course the third version is the version with the big rail guns. So I think we've already discussed this ad nauseum. We're going to get back to this.
Walker,
we're going to get back to this also in our mail call section. The Alexei and Nadia for the SSU, the tropical versions, also staples basically.
Yeah, it's an interesting combination that they have the machine guns and the flamers there in the same kit. One would thought that it would be the Anatolev and the Alexei that would be coming out just like you see in the Kickstarter, but now they switch around a little bit, and perhaps that's more interesting. It's definitely something one should have at least one of in Spetsnaz army.
Yeah. Especially the Nadia version is just, it's tough to see as multiples of those joining up forces against you. It's, something to be wary of. And finally, the Middle Eastern House number 2.
Yeah.
The big one. I mean, this...
no need to say anything there. Or what? No, well, basically, so fortunate that we haven't seen this one in person so far. We've only seen the picture because the pictures are bad enough. I mean, when I get to put my dirty little paws on this kind of building, I think I will have hard time releasing it, no matter how much money I'm having in my wallet.
This is lovely. I mean, if you look at the pictures, this also looks like it will be possible to use it as 2 separate buildings if you want to.
Yeah.
So you can either use it as a 2-story building, so the lower L-shaped building with a small tower, or you can use the tower as just a separate little building. So
that would be great. That
so
would
it's
be
versatile
amazing.
in that way. The only thing about this is a resin kind of style building, and it's not cheap. The model kit version of this is $120 on the Dust Game store.
Yeah, well,
so it's a lot. I'm hoping that this turns out well for the studio because I absolutely adore it. I love this building.
Yeah.
I have a hard time to see that everyone is going to buy it at that price, though.
Yeah, you got something there. You got something. Well, yeah. Yep, well.
We'll just have to wait and see. But that said, it's been a really cool month seeing all this stuff come out, and we have a lot of stuff that we know is coming out soon. But at the same time, I am extremely anxious to see some hints about what's coming out, because we are soon getting to the point where we don't really know exactly what is coming when. So a lot of this stuff that's been released now is stuff that we know has been on the way for a long time, but we are starting to get to the point that we don't really know what's coming anymore. That's exciting. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
And not going too naval-like, but and only talking about Nordic here, but didn't Paolo mention something that we have a secret presentation on Nordic as well?
He did, and I think we might be able to share some insights from that after the event. So
yeah, good.
Stay tuned for that.
Yeah, that would be super interesting.
All right, so let's dive into our mailbag section and go over to our listeners' questions. First off, we have a question from Mateusz Kuczynski. If you could create a new unit for the studio to add to the game, what would it be? I would make an SSU infantry unit with 5 Tesla guns, similar to Laser Grenadiers or Desert Scorpions Kill Squad. I don't think this will ever come to be.
Why not?
Because everyone gets stunned. That's basically why.
Yeah, but if they only have 1 or 2 dice and you have to wound them and stuff like that, so I mean.
That's true. The Teslas have been changed now, so you do have to wound with them in order for the Teslas to work. So it is an interesting thing that we haven't really seen a really super light Tesla gun that a normal infantry can wield.
No, you don't even have one infantry unit with 1 Tesla in it or something like that, except from the Steel Guards, where you got at least 2 in that squad. So, but you don't have the infantry Tesla, and that's a little bit strange because everyone else has their infantry, phaser, infantry, laser, and we know they're going to be an infantry railgun as well. So,
at least at a support weapon level, so that's something.
I think a unit like that with Teslas could work. It all depends on how many dice you give each guy. So I think that could work, no problem. For the question, what would you guys create if you can choose something?
Yeah, Merc pilot, Merc plane. I mean, Merc flyer any day of the week, and of course, I want Amelia Earhart there. So, but a Merc flyer,
or maybe something based on Porco Rosso.
Yeah, Porco Rosso would be nice, but I don't know if they want to do that. And I mean, that could be a little bit touchy for Paolo, perhaps. I don't know.
Maybe.
He is an Italian. I mean, it's,
for me, I mean, there are a whole bunch of stuff that you could use. Personally, I would like to see an allied aircraft pilot. I would probably try to create some kind of cool flying dude.
Some underwater units as well, I would like.
Submarines.
No, yeah, well, maybe divers or something like that. We can go fight underwater or something, but that's a few years ahead of us. But I would love that. I'm one of those guys that always wanted to see some sort of Axis superhuman, and I don't mean Blutkreuz. We've all seen a bunch of weird stuff in the Blutkreuz, but something that for the regular Wehrmacht basically a superhuman that can rally the people of the Axis. So, and of course, in the future, we want Japanese bikers. Akira! Yes, that's another thing.
Banzai. So Noah Heck has two questions. First off, I've recently become intrigued with the idea of trying to stack heavy armor to overcome my opponent's ability to break armor. My most recent efforts involved 2 Maus and a Karl Marx surrounded by some chaff troops. Do you guys have any experience running heavy armor lists, and how do you deal with the lack of activations?
Well, our tournaments rarely gives us the opportunity, I would say, because they do lack in a bit of, not in punch, but in versatility. And we also have objectives inside the houses and stuff like that. So
you handicap yourself a lot by not bringing enough infantry. That's a big point.
Yeah, I've toyed with the idea many times just to go all out with Russians, especially. You can do it if you go to Poland, because they usually don't have that many buildings. So then you fairly easy could run around with a lot of tanks. But no, it's hard getting the balance right.
So I want to say that we have that much experience playing with those types of lists, but we do have one fellow Viking that tends to run that type of list. I'm talking like 2 or maybe 3 of the big beetles for the Allies, and that can be a very annoying list to play against, definitely, just because it takes a lot of concentrated firepower just to get rid of one of them.
Yeah, definitely. And but now, since you have to have your mechanics outside the walker, it's much easier to deal with them. And nowadays it's the mythless creatures for me still that you need to have so much firepower in your army just to deal with something like that. So, and
I don't know. I have tried. I wouldn't maybe call it heavy armor, but a few times I've played with a lot of Axis walkers, like the armor 4 and 5s, and very little infantry. Maybe command squad and something else. And it was fun. I liked it, but it wasn't really, that effective, that good army. It's more of a fun army that, can win if you are a bit lucky, but, it's difficult. And I would say it comes from 2 things in our games, in our tournaments. First, that, like you said, we have a lot of terrain usually, which makes it a lot harder to move around. And also we always run, with objectives that, with that in mind, we kind of build the scenarios. We kind of build the scenarios that way. So you can't really rely on just one thing. We come back to that a lot. With the variety, both in scenarios and in deployment and stuff like that. So building an all-out army, even if you can choose all-out heavy armor, or you can choose some kind of spam army. Some scenarios will be very difficult for you because you get punished by it. That's kind of how we do it.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you just want to go some general tips for building this kind of army, I would say go for just like a breakthrough army type. Just roll up with your tanks, move as far as you can, and have 2 or 3 mechanic teams going behind the tanks to repair them when they inevitably get hit. And you can do a lot of damage that way. And just basically cut off the opponent from a large part of the board. That's basically how you can control the game that way. So if you have the opportunity, I think that's how I would play it, at least.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you're going to see more and more, at least, armored heavy armies in Poland, because now that we've gone over to play with 3 mats there, I feel you have more possibility to bring more vehicles and get some results with that. I mean, the range thing is more interesting now, and also you of course, even if you have 3 powerful Russian tanks and you roll them in with their damage resilience and everything, if your opponent has 4 or 5 lions with all their Panzerfausts, half of your tanks are gone in the first or second turn if you play only 2 mats, because it's so many Panzerfausts. It doesn't matter if you're damage resilience, you're going to get blown away anyway. So that's perhaps also, and too many people have been playing a lot of like lions in their armies and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I think
I mean, when you play on a bigger board, it's both that you can use the longer range of your weapons on the big tanks, and it will also take a longer time for those, like, for example, African lions to reach you.
Yeah.
So you will get like a whole or maybe even 2 more turns, which is a lot in this game. So
I'm guessing we're going to see more tank lists fairly soon.
Now, a second question is, after learning the game with Spetsnaz, I've been building an allied ranger force. I have not been as unsuccessful as I expected. What are your collective thoughts on the much maligned Allied Infantry 2 units? I think this is basically a question for you two guys, because you've been playing a lot with the Allied Rangers.
Yeah, well, and I think we agree that it's not the most powerful lists out there, but if you use them correctly, you can still achieve results. I mean, I won 1 small tournament with them, but it was a small tournament. I had 4 wins out of 5 in Poland with allies. No, sorry, I'm lying. 3 wins only out of 5. So sorry, correcting myself immediately there. So it's not a shitty army, but you really have to work it and you really have to combine it. And we've had some good games, Magnus, when we played Allied Ranger 2s against each other. And then it really gets interesting.
Yeah, I mean, my personal experience is that they kind of lack some real punch, if you know what I mean. That you know, that ace up your sleeve, that you can really, you know, hit something or push forward or whatever it is that you need to do.
Yeah.
A lot of the other armies, they have their stick.
Yeah.
But the Rangers are sort of jack of all trades, kind of
generalist army. So they're not really
kind of
that good at anything.
They have some good units. I mean, the I can't remember what they're called, but the flame.
Yeah.
I personally love the unit with 1 flamer and 4 shotguns.
So better than the double
that
flamer.
unit is awesome, absolutely. But they also have a few units that.
The weapon squad is good as well, because that's got a heavy machine gun and a bazooka, and it's got 2 underlying grenade launchers on the other 3 or something like that. Strange combination, but anyway, they can also punch a little bit against anything, and they can shoot at aircrafts, and they.
Yeah, but the problem often is that if you are, you know, kind of okay against everything, then you aren't really good at anything.
No, but they are very good backup units to the other ones. So
but that's a problem with, you know, a bunch of the other units, that they don't really do enough. And I'm not saying that they are horrible or really bad.
No.
You can do okay with them, but I feel that many of those units should be like 1 point cheaper or something, because that would make it, in the end, if you build a 100-point army or 120-point or whatever, then you would have enough points to get one more unit in your list, or maybe even 2 units, depending on what you choose.
Yeah, because you really need to have Rosie, and he's correct here that you should have Johnny One Eye if you can afford him, or perhaps experiment. I thought it was quite nice to experiment with the priest, but then of course we know now that you don't perhaps use priest anymore, or do you? I don't know. If you haven't read it, I won't say anything else. But but you need at least those heroes. So perhaps it's time for a new boost hero for the Rangers. And I like to reiterate something that I said last pod. I like to have a Sergeant Victory Rangers platoon. That Sergeant Victory is the leader of the platoon, and when he comes, he gives bonuses to the Rangers or something, because they inspired by him or something. The Rangers need a little bit more.
Give them like a once per game move and fire or something.
Yeah, I mean, follow the hero or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what you could call it, but you need something that boosts, and also because I think you need to boost Sergeant Victory just a teeny weensy after the cheat death change. I actually think just not enough, but not an extreme, but just something small, I think you need.
Yeah, and that's the kind of second part that I feel as well with the Rangers, that their platoons, and I'm talking here about both the Soldier 2 Rangers and the Heavy Rangers, their platoons aren't really nothing to write home about.
No,
they aren't bad. They have some utility, but yeah, they kind of lack something.
Yeah, one could also speculate, now I'm just speculating on top of my head here, that perhaps all M4 vehicles should have the same bonuses, so they can scout in and fire on the first turn or something. Perhaps a cap it, something, or you can have like 4 support M4s that come in and fire in the first turn. That could, I mean, open up some interesting, just giving them a little bit more punch in the beginning. So, but to summarize this question, we think it lacks...
It's not bad, but it lacks something.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, next question comes from Brian Bookstroker. What apps do you guys use to help with the hobby painting and gameplay? For me, almost none, really. I do use the official Dust Enlist app just for reference and to build lists and get a bit of check on units and stuff. But other than that, I don't really use that many apps just for my modeling hobby.
I would say probably my music app, whatever it's called, I can listen to music and podcast when I'm painting.
Yeah, definitely. Spotify has some good podcasts on it. If you should check that out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's
the Spotify app.
Yeah. That said, I've been looking a bit at the new Games Workshop, the Citadel Paints app. Because that can actually be a good reference if you're looking for specific combinations of colors and stuff like that. I think I haven't used it that much. I only looked around in it, but it seems very interesting.
Yeah, and I'm just too old for that shit. I've discovered YouTube. That's how far my knowledge goes. Sorry.
All right. So next question comes from Lynn McKayan. Or it might be Jeffrey McKayan. We're not quite sure. They might be sharing their account there. What will be your tactics to combat the new Avatar of Cthulhu with his attack/heal ability? Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about this guy recently on the net. How does it work? How much damage does he actually do? And how much heal does he get? But I think my answer for this question in general, just how you deal with this guy, is Panzer Meister. Just get the avatar suppressed, or use Teslas, or stun it, or you can't suppress him. That's true, but you can't. So in that case, grapple or Tesla. That's how you deal with these threats.
Manuel, it's only fire. It's not fire. It's only bell, or the opposite of it, perhaps. You can only fire him. Fire!
Yeah.
It's fire! It's fire! Mr. Faulty. Sorry, that's just. I'm going to shoot everything all the time, and run away from him. That's what I'm going to do. Simple and neat, but no, it's not neat. It's I don't.
But I think if you go this a bit harder, how do you deal with this guy? Because the threat here is that whatever you throw at this guy, he will just even if you do some damage, he has so much health, so much hit points that he will just counterattack and heal up everything, and then you're back to square one, except you've lost out on a few units. So I think what I will do is basically the same thing that I do against stuff like KV-47 swarms or such when I play my Andak. I will try to swarm him with infantry, which might sound counterintuitive, basically. But if you can get anti-tank infantry in, he will only heal 1 point per model he kills. Because he cannot damage something that's already dead.
Yep. Panzerfausts.
So in that case, for an entire 5-man squad, he can never heal more than 5 points from that squad.
Yeah. Making sure where your stack of ammo crates are on the board, because you can reload your Panzerfaust or your grenade launchers and stuff like that at that place. So that will be, of course, key to always target them and try to get hold of that stack of ammunition.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, he could be a real pain, of course, but I would also say that you kind of have to go like all or nothing. I mean, don't give him easy targets. Don't put like 2 units that he can easily reach. So spread out and make it hard. If he can reach you, he should only be able to reach like 1 unit at a time.
Yeah.
And then when you can, you just, swarm him. Take 1 turn and just bring everything against him.
Yeah, because otherwise either you kill him or you don't. And if you don't kill him, you're going to lose that game. But if you kill him, perhaps you can reload. And when the other Cthulhu monsters come, you can have a go at one of those or something. So it's of course going to be interesting to see both him and the other avatar when they come in combination there, and it's a psychic scream and shit like that. I mean, because which one of these two will you fire at first? And of course, if the one you can't sustain fire on the new one as well if the
not
old
if
one
they're
is,
in the platoon. No.
So you have to take out the other one first, and then
it's tough. It's tough all around. Next question comes from Robert Simpson. Why do you think there's a lack of British-themed releases in this game? I'd love to see some RAF or Tommies, etc. Your thoughts? I think Ludde has some ideas here.
Yeah, and I have some ideas I perhaps would not be appreciated if I told them so, if I said so, because, it's... The Brits aren't treated the way they should in this game.
If you just look by pure historical aspect, you mean? So.
Yeah, almost everything. So there's, for some reason, the Brits are supposed to be kept under a rock. I don't know why this stems from, but I'm just perhaps the game designer or some rule maestro is French or something. I don't know if there's some ancient feuds there, but
but I mean the originally the what's it called now, the heavy commando squad, the phaser guys, and the hero Action Jackson. They are from the Special Service Brigade, which are British. So there is some British in the game, of course, and I'm not sure, but if I understand correctly, they had some plans. I mean, they had the campaign, of course, with the Axis invade Britain.
Yeah, sea level, but that's about to...
yes, but when you read that, it seemed like they had some plans, and I'm guessing that for some reason they changed their minds, or they decided to focus on other stuff first, or whatever. So I wouldn't be surprised if they release some more British in the future. But in the meantime, I've also decided to do something about it. So I went with my allies and got a lot of British head, the British helmets and stuff, and did a lot of head swaps. So my allies are, for the most part, British.
Yeah. That's a
British
beautiful way to
looking, at least.
solve it. I mean, you can do a lot of conversions, and I've done some as well, as people know. Even though I haven't gone overboard, or perhaps done it as much as you, and I really, it's in awe.
And you have some
what you got.
Scottish guys, right?
Yeah, but not only me, because there's this wonderful, total. Well, I don't know what words to put on him, but a guy from Toronto's there who's doing this wonderful new Scottish army, and he's building a whole Desert Scorpions. There are only Scots, every one of them, painting them with the tartan flag and stuff like that. So that's going to be amazing. I hope he will be finished by Nordic and bring it, because Linus is a very smart guy, and he's doing some very, very interesting and fun conversions.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
So we think some are maybe coming in the future as well. We do see some of the new kind of releases with the tanks that have been kind of hinted at, and I think we might be seeing some British representation there.
Yeah, I sincerely hope that this recent Cthulhu tank will be upgraded with a phaser arriving as a British tank.
Yeah.
Of course, it will be an Allied tank, but it should really stand out as a British tank with a phaser and a flamer and stuff like that.
And a tea kettle.
Yeah, well, that would be nice as well. It would be nice as well, because yeah.
Right. Brian Longoria asks us, would you ever consider recording faction-specific breakdowns and analysis, especially for beginners-type content with your perspectives on factions and units? This is something that we've talked about previously to do. The big question has been finding the time for us personally to do it, unfortunately.
Yeah, so please keep bantering us and haggling us with it, because we should do that, but we don't get the thumb out of our collective, so please just
it would be interesting to do
it.
It's just we usually have a whole bunch of stuff to talk about anyway, so we don't want the podcast to be like 4 hours.
I think this might be something in that case
specials.
Yes, besides the just normal episodes of the show.
Yeah,
so as I said, this is something that we've considered, but we'll see if we can find the time with it. Right, next question comes from Blake McKayan. Do you think the Ryu is worth the cost, or is it better to run a Tengu, which is a few points cheaper? Also, the Ryu with dual railguns, shouldn't it have more dice to roll?
Well, maybe. If you look at the card, the Tengu has a 50, I suppose it's Mega Yule railgun, and the Ryu has dual 25 Mega Yule. So they're supposed to be like two, but half power.
So equivalent in that way.
Yeah, I think that's the idea of it. For the points, and if it's worth having, they are fairly similar. You basically trade that dual machine gun for a bit heavier armor. That's what you trade, and the Tengu is 3 points cheaper?
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, the Tengu probably looks a bit more bang for the buck there, and I think, in my opinion, the problem isn't really that the Ryu is overcosted. I think the Tengu should probably be maybe, I don't know, 22 or something at least. Something like that.
Well, yeah, we haven't play tested them. Almost never. I only faced them now in Toronto. But so to me, it's like the more weapon lines, the better. That's my take.
Yeah, and for me, it's similar. It's the more dice, the better. So for that point, I would rather use the Ryu 2 than the Ryu 3. Because in that case, you have a lot more dice and have a lot better chance to at least do some damage. So, but that's depending on what you're facing and how the rest of your army is.
Yeah, so that's also sort of the the little add-on for me, that if you know what you are up against, the Ryu can really be worth it, because the game balance between the different armors and how much damage each weapon does is very delicate. So that small change up to armor 5 can really save your day sometimes. So yeah, it depends a lot on what you're up against. But I would say I don't know, I'm just on the top of my head, probably in 80% of the games, the Tengu is the better choice. Something like that.
Yeah. Right. Brian Keith Younes asks, what miniature games did you play before Dust, and what drew you into Dust, and how does Dust compare to those games? I was a 40k guy since I was 15, with a little epic Necromunda and fantasy mixed in. Besides a little Mutant Chronicles, I never strayed from GW until a friend of mine got the Coffin Box. I'm a big World War II guy and a fan of weird war stuff, so it really caught my eye. The price points and rules sealed the deal for me. We did talk about this a bit before when we kind of had that episode where we interviewed each other.
Many episodes ago.
Yeah, but we can do kind of a short recap of that. I think for you two, you had a lot more kind of experience of wargaming than I've done before Dust, so...
I don't know. I've played a lot of different war games, and I also started mostly with Games Workshop, if I remember correctly.
Seems like everyone does that one way or
I remember
another.
Playing. I think like the first miniatures I painted was probably Blood Bowl miniatures. I played that a lot when I was younger, and still do every once in a while. Not that often, but it happens. Of course, 40k, Fantasy Battles, Necromunda, a whole bunch of those games. I've also played a lot of War Machine. I played some Flames of War, but I really didn't get into that. It was fun, but I don't know. I didn't really like the scale. I also, the same basically when I tried Epic back in the days. It was a cool game, but I want my miniatures slightly bigger, so those small scale miniatures aren't really for me. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I, of course, started my first miniature games. I was the Orcs for the Rogue Trader, and that's how everything got started with those metal figures. And then, of course, I am a very big sucker for BattleTech. And I have a huge stock of metal battle mechs and plastic metal battle mechs in my wardrobe as well. And then I thought that 40k was getting a little bit too expensive. I was tiring on the community which I was playing in. I wanted something new, something fresh. I saw the Coffin Box. I asked a friend, "Would you like to try this on?" And he said, "Well, yeah, it's." Seems nice, so we started trying it out, and what drew me to the Coffin Box was the walkers, and they were reminding me of the beautiful BattleTech mechs. And as you know, I love the Axis walkers, the early Ludwigs and stuff, but it was actually the M4s that drew me into it, because for some reason that shape. Also, the fact that you could jump in the beginning with your walker, so you can have that death from above. You could never land on another walker, which I would have loved to have done. Because that's one of the funniest thing in BattleTech, when you can leap in with and try to aim on a head on another walker. And sorry, now I'm flipping, but I remember a training mission I was on a convention, when my little mech was actually shot to pieces, but this was simulated, so I still managed to land on top of the head and smash the big mech, because of course, and I shouldn't have done that because it was a training simulation. So of course, I think I accidentally accidentally killed a fellow soldier on my side. Then, if you really think about it, but we won that.
Friendly fire.
Yeah, I felt this friendly fire. So I was taken out, but I was don't fucking fire on my battle mechs, I tell you. I'll take you out any way I can. No, so probably that's the short story of it, at least. So yeah.
Yeah, and for me, Dust is basically my first real miniatures game. I was into X-Wing really before then, and that changed basically around the time of the Kickstarter, because I found out about the big Operation Babylon Kickstarter, and that's where I found just all the amazing miniatures, and just got all in on that. And then I also had a demo with you two guys.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into the group and got to know you, and got into just leapt in with both feet first, basically into the pool. And before that, I the only real experience I had with these type of miniatures was that I bought and painted one squad of ultramarine guys back in the mid 90s, basically. But I didn't have anyone else that I knew that played Warhammer, so I never did anything with those miniatures.
You should never talk about that in the open like that, Johannes. No one is painting Smurfs and talks about it. It's something. It's something that you do in the closet, and I mean, that's a bit of. You shouldn't shame yourself in that way. And we know is you were young, you were confused, you were experimenting, as they say, and well. We're so happy you found me and Magnus that could put you on the right track.
I'm sorry, I was ultra curious.
Yeah, definitely. You're much wiser nowadays when you play your 40K.
Yeah, I think that might be a bit sarcastic, basically. But at this point, I'm like I said, Dust is the first big love in miniatures world for me. And after that, I just tried a lot of stuff. I have got into 40K. I got a bit into Age of Sigmar. Recently, I've been looking a bit at Team Yankee. Because I never really enjoyed the look and the feel of Flames of War, but Team Yankee for some reason connects to me more, especially if you do the more modern buildings and you do a table that feels more like a contemporary city. That's I like that concept much more. So that's something I'm interested in trying to build up a little bit, besides Dust, that is. The second part of this question is, how do you think Dust compares to these other games? Well, first off, I would say compared to most other miniatures games, Dust is much quicker and simpler. And that's the big draw, I would say. Besides the visuals, of course, because that's the thing that hooks you. The simplicity is what keeps you in, I say.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add also that I did not start play with the coffin box. I started a little bit later when the revised core set came out from Fantasy Flight. And it was back in the time when I was running a local game store here in Gothenburg. And it was this... I didn't really think of it that much. I mean, I looked a little bit at the box, and I mean, we opened a lot of boxes and made the demo kits from a lot of games. And I thought, yeah, this kind of looks cool. Maybe someday I should open this box. And then one day, some weird guy came into the store and started talking about this game and asked if he could play and show, and he did, and I kind of liked it. And that guy, if I remember correctly, his name was Ludwig. Ever heard of him?
No. It seems like a fucking deranged person. I don't know.
So
I'm so sorry for you. You met him.
And I mean, I also, like you said, I immediately liked the walkers, in particular the Axis walkers. So I started with those, and I built a heavy grenadier Wehrmacht force. I mean, back then it wasn't too much stuff to choose from, so I just picked the heavy dudes and went with that. Yeah, and like you said, Johannes, compared to these games, I think Dust has a lot of pros. I mean, it's faster, it's quicker, it scales really, really well. You can play very small game, just starter games, and it works really well, and you can scale it up to play a lot bigger games, and it still works. A lot of the other games you kind of really need. I mean, sure, you can play smaller points, but it's not that fun. Some of them you need to buy a whole bunch of stuff before you can start, more or less.
Yeah, that's very, very important thing you're touching on there, because we have had 25 points, 50 points tournaments that were really, really fun.
Yeah.
And you can have 200 points tournament also. If you have to put a time limit on the games then, of course, because if you should play more, and some are... We have a high age average in our gaming group, so when we got 20 activations, almost every one of us takes time. And it's not the game that is at fault here. It's it's too much stuff for us old men to keep in our heads, so we
keeps forgetting what.
How did I activate that? Yeah, you put a token on that one. Oh, did I? Well, isn't that your token? No. Is that your unit? No. A little bit seriously, every game hinders when you get up to with big points, but of course,
Dust does it better than most.
Yeah, definitely. It's
also that, like you said, Johannes, that it's very easy to get into. For me, it's very much like sort of a chess game, like the feel of chess. It's fairly easy to learn, like what pieces are there, and okay, this is how you move, this is how you shoot. But the more you play, you learn about these small differences. At first glance, these units are almost the same. It's just one weapon that differs.
Yeah.
But in game, when you play, when you put together an army, that little detail can make a lot of difference. So it has that, kind of easy to get into, but a depth.
Yeah, it's that emergent gameplay quality that's so important for the staying power of the game, and Dust has that in spades, I'd say.
Yeah. And one more thing that I'm thinking about, just on top of my head here, is just going back to the other question about the Allied 2 infantry or Allied 2 units, that actually Dust almost at least ain't leaving no troops behind. I mean, some other games has a tendency to, okay, that's an old unit, you don't want to play that anymore because it just grows that you have to have the last unit to be combative, and still, even though you have to fight for it with the Allied 2s, they're still, even those aren't useless. They are. You can still build an army and fight off your opponent with them. So it's and that's a very important thing. You don't feel like you have to now have the Imperial Japanese Army or Cthulhu. If you don't have, you're useless.
We have seen a very, very good example and proof of this. I'm talking about the upgrade of the Axis Laser Grenadiers.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So the studio have really shown that they are willing to take a look at stuff if they see that it's needed.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great.
And the final question for this episode comes from Michael Allen Hardin, who asks, what is your favorite unit? Short and simple. Well, for me, the answer is there's a lot of favorite units for a lot of different reasons. But I think if you look at the whole of the units, just in flavor wise and how it looks, how it performs in game. For me, I think the thing that comes out on top is still the Panzer IV. I just love how it looks. I love my particular model of it because I'm really, really happy with how it came out. I love how it works on the battlefield. So yes, for me, it's the Panzer.
Yeah, it's a super difficult question because there are so many cool things, and they are just keeping releasing new cool stuff. So, but I think I'm gonna go back to what I just said. Basically, I started with those heavy grenadiers, and I really like the look of them. I think they look so cool. I would be super happy if they ever release some more units of them. Do something more. I think they look so cool.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I really can't make up my mind. The first thing that popped into my mind was Rosie. That's I think is definitely my favorite model. But then also, I have a weird love affair with the hot dog. There's something about the hot dog that, I don't know, I could spend days with it in a closed room and enjoy myself. It's perversion, but of course, but then I am a Russian player by heart actually. So the KV5s as well, the Babushka, the Matryoshka, and the 47. All those three with those improved Axis walkers. I mean, the Axis walker.
No, they are lesser copies.
No, they are improved. They have a bigger armor statue. There's higher quality. They are improved, and so. But I mean, yeah, it's a fucking tough call. Some of those three, I think. But then, of course, I mean, then also the Striker chopper. That was also something. I mean, like that hint that comes. Oh, god damn, man. Well, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Right. So that's it for the mail call section. Let's go and talk a bit of tournament talk. We have talked a lot about Dust Nordic in the past. You're going to hear some about it recently, bit because it's just 2 weeks away from the day we are recording.
Yeah.
I am so looking forward to this event. It's going to be magnificent.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk so much more about it today. We are going to mention it in a bit. Let's go back to that. But next time, we have Lincoln, also here in Sweden, the 31st of May. That's going to be an interesting kind of experience as well. And of course, we have some news about the European Championship that's going to be 15th and 16th of June.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to take this one, Ludo?
No, I can't put the sentence together. I just see the image in front of me, which Marek posted. So please, you should do the honors.
Yeah, so if you haven't had enough reasons so far to go to the European Championship, we just got confirmation that just as a participation gift, that every player will be getting the special edition Tito miniature.
Yeah, Paolo Parente.
If you haven't seen this is basically Paolo Parente in miniature form.
Yeah, and
as a
two
mercenary.
Tommy guns.
Yeah, it looks just amazing, this model. So yeah, that's going to be an event to look forward to as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And
you
it's
just have to go now.
in the middle of June.
Yeah, 15th and 16th of June.
Yeah.
That's it. All right, now let's go over and talk a little bit about our next episode, just tangentially related to Dust Nordic, because you are going to get an episode sooner than you might think this time. We usually just do one episode a month, but the next episode we're going to do is going to be a special Dust Nordic Aftermath episode, in which we are going to talk about our experiences on that tournament and what we experienced, what we learned, previews, stuff like that. And we're also going to have some very, very special guests. That's right. Paolo Parente and Olivier Sanfresco will both be joining us for that episode.
Ooh. Yeah, and who knows what subjects will be talked about in that episode. And how long that episode will be.
We have no idea. And partly because some of that is actually up to you, the listeners. Ooh. Because we are, as part of this special episode, having a contest. We are giving you the chance to mail in your questions for Paolo and Olivier. Every person who sends in a question is going to be put in a random drawing in which you get a chance to win the newly released Ryu 2 and 3 premium kit for the Japanese.
And wasn't it so also that the question has to appear on the podcast to be in the draw? Or
that is correct. So just don't send in any old question. It has to have some quality to it. So
right, and we will probably, depending on how many questions we get, we will probably not be able to use all of them, even if they are super good. So we are going to have some kind of, finale where we choose what questions we are going to forward to them.
And if it's just too many really good questions, we will do some kind of random selection, so not to be biased in any way. I think that's important. But there's also going to be a special prize for the person who sends in what we three agree on is the best question. And
you heard it here first, folks. We're going to actually agree on one thing, and that's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to happen.
No?
But if that actually does happen, then that person is going to win the Avatar of Cthulhu in the primed kit. So
that's a prize.
Yeah. So if you need a reason to help make this show a very epic one, then just just get started on your questions.
Yeah, and if you don't want an avatar or a Rio, and but you still want to add a question to Paolo and Olivier, you can always say that in the question that you don't want a prize.
Forfeit.
Yeah,
of
you
course.
can forfeit your prize, of course. Who wants an avatar or a Rio? I mean, those are. It's going to be so interesting to see what kind of splendid questions that the listeners will imagine.
Absolutely. So go get cracking on that and send your questions to dustnordic@gmail.com.
And when is the deadline for this?
The deadline for this is in 2 weeks' time, so it's going to be Saturday. Let's see, what do we get there?
Maybe?
Saturday the 13th of April.
But you still want them to send it to Dust Nordic, not Dust War Journals?
That's
to
true.
make it easy to...
Yes. You can send it to either dustnordic@gmail.com or you can send it to dustwarjournals@gmail.com. Both addresses are fine.
Splendid. But don't send same question to both mail addresses.
No, choose one of them.
we are stupid, but not that stupid. So, okay, we're going to see that it's the same question.
And you will put all this information up on the website?
Definitely. So you can look at there. And there will probably be a web form that you can fill out for those who doesn't want to send emails. So you can go that route as well if you want to.
And am I just too spiteful when I ask which website is that going to be on?
It's going to be on both dustnordic.com and on dustwarjournals.com.
Bam! I got that one right in the kisser. Okay, good one, Johannes. That's the way to respond.
That's the way.
You like it. And
So that said, I think we are now all very much looking forward to this special episode. It's going to be something to remember, I think. So with that said, a big shout out to everyone out there. We really appreciate all the support you've been giving us over the years. And a big thank you from me, Johannes.
And from Magnus.
Yeah, and you're friggin' awesome, babies. This is Lotta signing out.
And as usual, we shall all see you on the battlefield. Thank you for listening to Dust War Journals. You can find us at dustwarjournals.com or on social media at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Dust War Journals. And you can find our Patreon page at patreon.com/dustwarjournals. All music used in this podcast is made by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com.